So, I don't do this often, but I can't keep reading the exact same cycle. Hey lovelies, so... Wow. Wow. SkyShade. So I want you to take everything from the past two books and push away most of it. I really wanted to love this series. I wanted to at least like this series. Even if it wasn't great, it could have been fun to read. Unfortunately, I have more problems with this book than what I would like to have. You see, SkyShade repeats itself. And it not only repeats itself, but it repeats the issues I had with books 1 and 2. And I need to talk about this because it's insane how we can take this published book, a book that would have been so much better as a well-planned duology or trilogy, and somehow make it 5 books. If it was 4 books, I might have stayed to finish out the last 100 pages of SkyShade and the next 400 pages of Crown Tide. But with that 5th book, I don't know if I could do it again. 800 pages, hypothetically, is a large commitment, especially for something that is not of the highest quality. SkyShade starts out immediately after Isla gets kidnapped by Grimm. And we kind of start right off the bat with things. And there's definitely some animosity with his court and her, but she's doing okay. She's still caught between this love corner of Grimm and Oro, but it's not bad at this point. She's basically trying to figure out how to close the portal that she herself opened. The portal to the original world that her people and the other realms came from. And the fact that she has a very small amount of time left to live with the spell that's binding her and Grimm. And that was okay. She goes on a quest to meet with the Oracle's followers, and Grimm goes along with her, and I wouldn't say it's climactic. They make it through the tunnel pretty easily, and at one point they're trying to cuddle for warmth. And things start to heat up in the bad way. And she's supposed to be angry at him at this point, and it doesn't make sense for her not to be, considering that he lied to her and took her memories against her will. Yes, she asked him to take her memories, but he refused, and then he just did it anyway. Because Grimm is not very well thought out. I think I liked Oro more because he started to push back against her more. Grimm has an issue of being a yes man, and we'll get into that deeper in why I couldn't finish SkyShade, but yeah, in the very first few chapters, she basically takes the healing elixir and gives it to Oro's troops. And he's just okay with that. I would have liked to see them butting heads a little bit more to see how they do with their relationship. Because from what I read in SkyShade, it's kind of just Isla pushing Grimm around and showing that as something desirable, a little strange. And it pretty much just breaks down all of the mystery that Grimm had built up over books 1 and 2. And I don't like him. I still don't like him. Oro, I feel like, has just the teeniest bit more personality because at least he fights Isla on a few things. And when I say fighting, I don't mean screaming matches. I don't mean throwing things. I mean, it seems like he has his own values outside of make Isla happy. He seems more real. It's not by much. It's not. Both of these men could stand to go without Isla for like 10 minutes. Most likely more. Please more. So basically at this point, Isla is attempting to figure anything out. But she's going around to these different places. She also gets these bracelets that nullify her power. And every few pages she's like, oh, I wish I could use my magic, but I can't. I can't. Babe. I don't think that was the solution, and it felt more just tossed in there than actually well fleshed out. It could have been done. I didn't mind the plot point at first, but I mean, we found out some cool stuff about the blacksmith. He can't he can't die, but because Isla wounded him that one time, he's hoping he can finally get a nap, a rest, just kind of stop. Which that is definitely an interesting concept of an immortal being forced into immortality and then just dealing with that fact, which that I find incredibly interesting, but yeah, we don't do it much with that plot point. And the plot point of the whole curse of rulers being tied, I thought that was going to be solved, especially with like Isla is still running and ruling over the Starlings and the Wildlings. Now, she gets mad at Grimm for trying to sacrifice his life for her, but she's okay with herself doing that. Is she not thinking? It's a big part of the book is Isla trying to get back to Oro, Isla thinking about Grimm, Isla being mad at Grimm, spicy scenes, much to my discretion, where more of a spicier scene should not be. Like, there was a point where she's trying to capture a storm. Azul gave her a ring to help with that, and well, the Stormfinch is basically like a miner's canary, for storms. They kind of start singing when storms are approaching. So they're trying to capture this storm. The storms are called the Tempests, and we finally have a title for a book that makes sense: SkyShade. The SkyShade is part of these storms, which much appreciated. Gotta love when a title is at least relevant to the book. And she has to capture the storm because she's looking for the portal that their ancestors first came through. And it's kind of like a tracker spell. But the Stormfinch is screaming. Oro is hiding in her room because he flew all the way from Lightlark to Nightshade, which, mind you, that's dedication. That's dedication. We love to see it. And she's trying to get dressed in her go-go gear because she's trying to, like, go and get ready, and she has to fly on Wraith. Wraith is the dragon Grim and Isla adopted. And instead of just having a go-go-go moment, nope, they have to stop to make out. Yep, they have to stop to make out. And this is another issue I have with Grim. I'm gonna get into it now, actually, but Grim only knows how to do a few things. Rip her clothes off. Unfortunate. Literally, by the way, he has ruined most of her wardrobe. Be violent and aggressive, not only towards his own people, but towards Isla. The people see him as such this great guy, and yes, we did see a little bit of that. But one of his court members was like, hey, she's kind of a snake, though. And he got his head put on a pike. So no, that's what you call a dictator. Now the guy who was trying to assassinate her, yeah, I could see that. But the thing that works so well with characters like Zayden is he shows restraint. He's not only nice to the main character, he is nice to his people. He has a group of people that he loves and cares for. And he doesn't go willy-nilly with his hatchets. Or in this case, shadows. And with Grimm's yes man mentality, like, he fully knows Isla is slaughtering his people. Mind you, they're kind of the scum of the earth. People who are targeting women. He's okay with that. He knows she's using this dangerous type of magic. He fully knows. He's seen the evidence on her arm. That's fine. I'm sorry. It's fine. That is not okay. You cannot just look me dead in my eye holes and say, hey, I know, like, my wife is, like, getting into something super dangerous, and I'm not going to say anything. That is not healthy. Yes, a ride or die is a wonderful dynamic. But babes, somebody has to have the brakes, otherwise you are going to hit a tree. You cannot do that. Being like, okay, yeah, sure. Destroy yourself. An actual loving partner will not let you do that. A good friend will not let you do that. And I haven't seen these two be friends at all. The tension started kind of as soon as they met. Their first meeting was literally them making out. I digress. But anyway, Isla loses that ring with a storm in it. And she finds the portal anyway by having Grimm take her to this maze, and she's just kind of... She realizes it's the tombstone of one of Grimm's ancestors, the one who founded Lightlark with her ancestor and Orio's ancestor. And it was okay. And yeah, mind you, while she's looking for this portal, she's also dealing with the Oracle's cult. When she was hunting down predators at night, she met this girl who she saved, and she was teaching her self-defense, which I will get into that particular bit later. It just reminded me a lot of Throne of Glass, which it's not a bad thing to have a book remind you of something else. Everything can lead to something else. The color blue might make you think of Dobby's flames or Ida's hair or somebody's eyes. Simple things like that. But in fiction, in books, when you start to notice a pattern, when you start to notice it hitting almost beat for beat, at that point you're just slightly varying it's pretty much just turned into an AU. Slightly different universe, different characters. Not a bad thing, but I prefer there to be slightly more variation in the story. So she finds out this girl she helped and basically taught self-defense for a page is part of the Oracle's cult. And she and her pseudo-friends, we don't actually see a lot of that, basically have Isla murder them. And Grimm is saying something about the beast inside of her, but we've seen nothing of it, like, at all. It's kind of insane, actually. Genuinely, we haven't heard any of this. Like, if there was a beast she couldn't control, why wasn't there inclinations of that? Why wasn't it foreshadowed? And even in SkyShade, it's not utilized well. It's definitely, excuse me, there's so much underlying, it's not utilized well in the plot, like, at all. It's rough. It's a book that has plot points but no story. It's just getting to the next scene, pretty much. And I saw a comment that I agree with. It turned into fanfiction. Nothing wrong with that for Wattpad or AO3 or Quotive. When you're writing a published book, it has to be a little bit more polished. There's a point of suspension of disbelief. SkyShade and Crescent City both have a spicy library scene. The difference is that in SkyShade, I don't really like either of the characters. In Crescent City, I am invested more in the characters, and it comes way later on. The library scene in SkyShade, she's looking for more knowledge about these sigils. I don't remember what they're called, and I don't want to look. but she's looking for more of them. Mind you, she is sacrificing her body for this. And she's not thinking about her people at all. And there was a weird plot point too of, so there's a traitor among the wildlings, which keeping it for the end, very smart. Very smart, especially for a one book or even a multiple series if you're going to go that route. But I never found out who, and I don't really care. So they basically destroyed all of the nightshades, and she was talking to her guardians because she was convinced it was them, but it wasn't. And not only did her guardians lie to her, but they also lied about killing her parents. And I was taken aback as, like, why would you lie about that? She's already pissed at you for lying to her. Why are you adding fuel to the fire if you didn't do it in the first place? I'm confused. And there's a point in the book where she goes to the prison that they're in, and it's like a page of them going, actually, we're not, we're fine. And then it goes nowhere else. It's definitely a book I read. And I do have to retract the statement I made in the last video. A bear only fits Isla like halfway. Snakes, though. Snakes fit her. They're small and sometimes unassuming, but incredibly powerful, which I appreciate. But, like, she didn't even train the snakes herself, though. One of the wildlings trained the snakes, and she just kind of hauls them around a few times. Which, don't get me wrong, I love lynx, but still doesn't feel like her own creature. Snake, however, would be wonderful, and I do always love the image of, like, a big predator being the mount to the main character. Like, get me riding on a wolf. Or a panther. So much fun. So much visual interest just in that. And I understand why. And I understand why we have Wraith. I will also have to talk about Wraith, because I do have, like, some slight minor nitpicks on him as well. But, yeah. It's so fast. And it's not a good, nice, fast, quick, steady paced. It almost pushes you through the plot instead of holding your hand. And not the holding your hand as in have to explain everything over and over and over and over again, but letting you feel the emotions of it, letting you feel and taste and smell the world, which the more I read SkyShade, the more I realized she doesn't do that as much as she should. She tells you that Isla is picking up an apple versus how the apple feels against the pad of her fingertips. She doesn't tell you about how good the food smells, she just tells you there's food. And I have to give credit where credit is due. I've noticed that in my first draft of Camp of the Forbidden, I'm doing the exact same thing. I am telling, I'm not showing. And of course, that's saved for later drafts. I can refine that. This should have been refined. I'm also noticing a huge issue of repeated things. And yes, it's good to repeat bits of information, but not every chapter or multiple times a page. That gets annoying. Fast. It's rough, to say the least, honestly. And going back to the dragon, the Wraith I could have felt would have been more interesting if he was more animal-like. Let's take Abraxas. Abraxas in Throne of Glass is more animalistic. He growls, he roars. He doesn't smile. Wraith smiling is the biggest of the smaller issues I have. Animals don't smile unless they're like the domesticated dog. Even then, excuse me, it is late tonight. It is rare for an animal to pick up on that behavior from a human. Smiling, showing your teeth, baring your teeth in nature is a sign of aggression. And Wraith doing it, not something that's great. I wish he leaned more into like the animalistic nature of the dragons. Yeah, it was okay. I think I rated it a 1 out of 5. And yes, that is low. And yes, I did not finish the book, and I really tried. And it was around the library scene where I had to take a step back and realize that I can't do this. There's so many drop plot points. There is so much more fanfic points than actual plot points. I've seen them have a spicy scene so much, it's like, okay, can I have a little bit of plot? You're overspicing the food at this point. And it's so unfortunate. Because the art on the books is beautiful. I love it. I love it. It's giving us something. And the books themselves are gorgeous, and the maps are so interesting to me. But it shows you didn't actually think about the world. You had an idea. Great, good for you. And you didn't refine it. I once got a tumbler for Christmas. Yes, this is relevant, I promise. Stick with me for this metaphor. And I tumbled rocks. I got impatient and didn't have them through the finest grit for long enough so they didn't get as polished. I feel like this could have used a little bit more time in the tumbler. We started seeing inclinations of the 5 senses being used, but we still weren't spending as much time on the actual plot. We were dropping points, and we were spending more time on spicy scenes than romance. If this was, it's definitely a romance before a fantasy. Nothing wrong with that. I would have loved some romance. I don't see much of it. There's a point in the book where Grimm is trying to take Isla for just a little taste, just a nice little date. She drags him to the bedroom. And another thing about that library scene, I am still not over, because In Crescent City, it was on a table. In SkyShade, it was on the shelves. With the books she needed to look through. In fact, that is the point that made me stop reading. Close to it. It was the final straw in a long list of straws. They boinked down the shelves. She needed the book on the shelf, and somehow, by boinking on the shelves, she realized that one of the books stayed on the shelf. And if that is not pulling a solution out of the trunk drawer of your kitchen, I don't know what is. Isla is both written as the smartest character in the room, or actually, and the knight with this naivety that's distracting. There is a huge difference from Isla to honestly, I'm going to use Alina from Shadow and Bone. They're both ignorant. They're both isolated in a world and going into a world they don't really know. Alina grows and she adapts. Isla adapts and then she goes back. And it's this process of her learning the same thing over and over and over again. She hates Grim, but she really wants to make out with him. And that's not how people work. Grim violated her trust and her memories. Yes, you can still love a person, but it's way harder to let them close to you. It's especially with the fact that they're married. And another thing about that, if they're married, why didn't we see more romance in the flashbacks of last book? Instead, we got them meeting, which was great. We love a good meeting. That is honestly the best way you could start that. But why did it have to be that? Why did it have to be Grim choosing a woman to sleep with and then moving on to the next one? Couldn't it have been this big, scary shadow guy who, based off the culture of Nightshade, is very Spartan look on life? What if he was just a nerd? What if, yes, he was good at the sword, but what if he was better with a pen? Because yes, we love the strong, powerful Shadow Daddy, but what about the quiet nerd who uses his smarts with magic? And yes, we needed a villain, but the Tempests, as scary as they are, take a back seat. And you have to make your villains scary. Let's take another book I don't normally use. I'm looking here, hold on. Let's use Spiderwick. For those who have seen the movie, wonderful. For those who have read the books, wonderful. The main villain in that story, incredibly written. In the books, it is even more suspenseful because there's so much more going on. It's great. But we can flip between both, honestly, but the movie, he is visually disgusting. He's Goblin. And yes, he's defeated in a funny way, but he is still a threat. A threat that demands respect. Wonderful. Wonderful. Now take that kind of villain, or for those of you who have seen it, the Minecraft movie. I just watched that this weekend, and oh boy. It had the same feeling of Lightlark, which it felt like a first or second draft instead of a finished product. The Minecraft movie could have dealt without the garbage man. I don't really know why he was there. And we didn't focus as much on the kids as I would have liked. They had the most interesting backstory, yet they put to a backseat. Why did the sister go on to have a self-defense class if we barely saw her fighting? It does not make sense. What I would have done with that is basically 3 movies. Overworld, Nether, The End. Perfect trilogy. And then I would have had the villain be Herobrine, just in the background. The first movie could have been about the creepers, the zombies, the skeletons, the spiders. The enemy is nature. And how do you deal with that when you don't know the rules of that nature? The second one, nature mixed with, we could still use the piglin sorceress. Wonderful villain. Could have been scarier. Was defeated too easily, and that bit with come closer, way too long. Way too long. The third, the Ender Dragon. And we still keep maybe a little bit of sympathy with the last egg. But I digress. Could have been so much better. So much better. With them defeating Herobrine at the end. Maybe with the help of an Ender Dragon. Maybe. But the SkyShade. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy. I could see this going in multiple directions. We could keep the portal idea to the other world and it'd be fine. Or we could stick with the Centennial. Good duology. Or even good trilogy if you do it correctly. It was section 2. In Wings of Fire, there's a book that takes the course of 3 days. And jam-packed. Wonderful. So you kind of forget it's only 3 days, but it's still only 3 days. The Centennial had 100 days, and we didn't see a lot of it. Like, we didn't even deal with, like, the fact they were grappling with having to kill an entire population of people. We didn't really dwell on that. We dwelled on how hot Grim and Aura were. And it's crazy. Unfortunately, I have to shelve this one. And I don't think I'll even keep these books, unfortunately. I will give it to a secondhand bookstore. I am disappointed, to say the least. It would have been nice if I enjoyed the series. But I think it's time to let it go. I think it's time to move on to A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet. I think it's time to put down the fantasy for a little bit and pick up some science fiction. SkyShade and Lightlark in whole was still an informative read. It showed me, as an author, what to keep an eye out for. And sometimes it's okay to read not so well written books. It's still important. You find out what works and what doesn't, especially for authors. If you are an author, read bad books. Read books that aren't written amazingly. You need to see both sides of the coin to understand the whole of it. Did I like SkyShade? No. Did I like Lightlark and where I thought that was headed? Yes. Do I like Isla? Not really, honestly. She feels more like a character that has the personality best fit for that moment. She is smart when the plot needs her to be, but she is dumber than a box of rocks when she needs one of the male leads to swoop in and save her. She is ruthless and battle hungry, but she still forgives her ex-friend for trying to kill her. Yeah, that quill she found had part of Celeste's soul in there, and she was trusting it. Not even questioning, honestly. I digress. That was wow. And there's another issue I have that I almost forgot to touch on. Oro and Isla. The girl who knows when and how she's gonna die. Saying that Isla is no good for Oro because she distracts him. And yeah, his life is tied to the entire island. But that's the kind of the case for every ruler with their people. And it's hypocrisy, honestly. Love is a weakness because then you can take the other's power, but yet maybe that risk is worth it. Just saying. Isla is deciding to play willy-nilly with her life. And another thing, when Isla died, how long does it take for that curse to take an effect? Low-key. Because she died. Like, full stop. Her heart was not beating. How did none of the wildlings pass away? Did a few of them get heartburn? Does it take like 20 minutes? Does it take until the body is, like, completely cold? Kind of. That hole is definitely bigger than a few of the others, but wow. Yeah, I gotta shelve this one. I'm so sorry. I wish I could have finished, but 5 books is a lot, especially if this is the quality of every single one. Some of you might remember when I read The Spear Cuts Through Water. That one was okay. It was weird at times, but it had a really decent plot and a really interesting writing style. I thought about dropping it, but it was one book. It was one book, and I finished it, and I have uber mixed feelings about that. This one with being 5 books, and I did look at Goodreads. And when fans of the book are like, hey, maybe this needs to be shorter, you know you have a problem. And it breaks my heart. Because I really want the best for every author, every creative. I want their work to be loved. But it's also important to know when to quit. I thought about making Camp at the Forbidden part of an extended universe, and I might do that. But Camp Hollow's story is over, kind of. It needs to be refined, but I wrote the end on the document. And yes, there is many, many more stories about Camp Hollow, but I don't know if they need to be told. We know 1, 2, 3, 4 stories at this point. Not fully. We only know 1 fully from one point of view, and then again, that's one point of view. There's 8. That's just the main cast. Let alone the entire camp. There is so much. But I want to make sure that it's meaningful to the story I'm trying to tell, or the broader theme I'm trying to convey. Yes, it is so fun to dive deep in your world, but sometimes your silly little drafts can stay drafts. I know for a fact Sarah J. Maas does this. There is small stories she writes when she feels missing that world. And I probably will do the same, honestly. That is a wonderful idea. But if we published all of those, yes, we might enjoy some of them, if not all of them. But at a certain point, we have to let it go. Not in a sense, but we can't keep just telling the same stories over and over again. It gets boring. There has to be an end. Let's take another book I read, The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. Absolutely adored that book. If that book was 1,000 more pages, I would have eaten it up. But there was a story. The story was told. And until it's deemed fit, the book is closed. And Addie's life was not over. Not even close. She was still exploring. She was still seeing the world. But that section, the important section of her life, is over. And allows us to move on. When a series like this goes too long, it makes you feel stuck. And It sucks. It really does. You really want the best for these people, but reading book 3, it felt rushed. It felt too slow. It felt like I was trying to run through mud. And I pushed hard for this series. I would have stopped reading at Nightbane, but I pushed just a little bit more, hoping that maybe it could have gotten better. Because yes, sometimes that first book, it's a little rough. And then you get into a groove. And sometimes you don't. And sometimes it's just okay. For those of you who love and adore the entire series of Lightlurk, I'm happy for you. I'm happy you enjoy something. This was not for me. This was not for me at all. It, on paper, it was up my alley, but the repeating, no, I'm good. I enjoyed it when I could. I didn't love it, but I didn't absolutely despise it like it was the worst thing ever. And yes, I rated it 1 star, but that was more for the lack of character arcs and just the repeating cyclical nature of enemies to lovers. I enjoyed bits and pieces, but SkyShade, there was a few sentences that I liked, but I didn't really like where the story was heading. I really liked the blacksmith, but it was okay. It was okay. But yeah, that is why I stopped reading SkyShade. As a little treat, I have a very interesting video for next week. But, oh boy, SkyShade was a rough read. And I hope somebody enjoys it better. I don't want it to be collecting dust on my shelf just to never be opened again. I want someone to enjoy it. If that means I have to get rid of it, well, that works for me. As long as somebody enjoys the books, that's fine by me. So, alright, lovelies, I love you. Make sure you please stay hydrated. Go get yourself a healthy or maybe unhealthy snack. And as always, I love you. Alright, goodbye now. Mwah!